If you just bought a new or certified pre-owned bike, one of the first things you need to set up is your saddle position. Having the correct saddle position on your bike will make your bike feel more comfortable, it'll make you more efficient and less prone to injury. Fortunately, it's super easy to do at home with a few tools and a little bit of knowledge. You don't need much. Usually all you need is a basic hex wrench set or bike multi-tool to adjust your saddle position. Some nice to haves are a torque wrench or torque key, especially if you have a carbon seat post or carbon saddle rails. Fortunately, at TPC, we include a torque key with your bike. Another nice to have is a tape measure, but it's not entirely necessary. Setting your saddle position should take around 5 to 10 minutes, but refining it and perfecting it could take a lifetime. Hopefully we'll get you in a nice ballpark starting position so you can begin to refine your saddle position as you get more miles. We're going to cover a couple easy methods to ballpark your saddle position. To demonstrate, we have our former World Tour Pro, Johan, here with his new bike. And the first method we're going to go over is the quick and dirty bike shop method for setting a saddle position. This is what we use to get customers ready for test rides, and it gets you pretty close. We have them on a trainer here, but if you don't have a trainer at home, you can lean against the wall, you can set your bike up between a doorway, or you can have a friend hold your bike for you. And the method is called heels on pedals. What we're gonna do is we're gonna have Johan in his riding shoes, so use whatever riding shoes that you're gonna be riding in. He's gonna put his heel on his pedal, and he's gonna back pedal a little bit. And basically what we're looking for is at the bottom of the pedal stroke, we want his leg to be fully extended. So essentially a straight knee. So you can see here, he's still got a little bit of bend in his knee. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna raise his saddle a little bit to get that straight leg extension. And what happens is when he puts the ball of his foot back on the pedal, he should have a little bit of bend in his knee at the bottom of the pedal stroke. Heels on pedal is a really easy way to get a nice starting saddle position, but if you want to get something a little more precise, we can use another method which requires measuring your inseam. Now Johan, I'm going to have him take off his shoes so he's in his socks or bare feet, and we don't want to use the inseam measurement from your pants. We want something a little more accurate than that, so we're going to actually measure it. What you need is a straight edge, a level, or a lot of people have a book at home, you can use this. And ideally you want to stand with your back against the wall, stand up straight with your feet about shoulder width apart. What we're going to do is we're going to have this book basically up in your crotch, and if you're against the wall, this will let you get a nice level measuring point. And we're going to measure from the top here to the ground, and that is your inseam measurement. So Johan here has an inseam of 913 millimeters. What we're gonna do is we're gonna take that number and we're gonna multiply it by 0.883, or if you prefer, you can find an online calculator. They all do essentially the same thing, and that's gonna give you a saddle height measurement, essentially from the center of your bottom bracket to the top of your saddle. So if we take Johan's inseam of 913 millimeters and multiply it by 0.883, we get 806 millimeters. That is the measurement we're gonna use to set up his saddle height by measuring from the center of the bottom bracket to the top of the saddle. And that gives us a nice, pretty accurate starting position. So right here we can see Johan's saddle is clearly too low. He has a lot of bend in his knee. But when you're in the ballpark, it gets a lot harder to tell when your saddle is too low. And the two things we really look for are when you're pedaling at a high cadence, you might notice bouncing in the saddle. Bouncing your saddle a little bit when you're trying to pedal really fast generally means you need to raise your saddle a little bit. The other thing we see really often with saddles that are too low is a rider riding with their legs sort of in an awkward position, usually bowed out. Surely you've seen people out on the road with their legs pointing out. Your legs should be tracking fairly straight when you're pedaling, and if it's bowing out, it's probably a sign that your saddle is too low. Now, if your saddle is too high, you might notice you need to stretch to reach the bottom of the pedal stroke. So what we often see in riders that have a saddle that's too high is a little bit of rocking in the hips as they pedal. because they're having to stretch with each pedal revolution. If you're feeling this on the bike, it probably means your saddle's too high and we need to lower it a little bit. When you have your saddle in a good sort of starting position, you can start tweaking it once you get out on the road or the trail and putting in some miles. Remember, we always recommend tweaking your saddle in small increments, usually 3 to 5 millimeters. You might be surprised to find that 5 millimeters actually makes a huge difference. And you can also start playing with your saddle fore-aft position. That's where it is front to rear, and the tilt of your saddle. And you can sort of do this based on feel. If you're sliding forward, maybe you need to tilt your saddle back. If you're sliding back, maybe tilt it forward. And with fore-aft position, generally, I like to think you want to find a good balance point. Everyone has a different length torso, and positioning your saddle in the correct fore-aft position will give you a nice balance point where there's not a lot of weight on your hands. And also, if Johan, you can take your hands off, it makes it easy to take your hands off the bike if you're able to do that without shifting your position in your saddle. Now, if you find yourself falling down a wormhole where you can't find an ideal saddle position, that's probably when it's time to seek professional help. If you're feeling pain, if you're experiencing an injury, a good professional bike fitter can get you dialed in. So consider that in the future. One thing we also find is that a lot of newer riders are afraid to put their saddle so high because they can't reach the ground while they're seated in the saddle. Now, a lot of taller riders might be able to, but riders of average height or shorter riders won't be able to. What you need to do is practice stepping off the bike in front of your saddle, and once you can do that, you're perfectly safe. Hopefully you found this video helpful and you can set your saddle position at home and get out riding. If you liked it, don't forget to like and subscribe. We'll see you next time.